Who was secretly exhausting your teenager every weekend? My one 6-year-old daughter started coming home Sunday nights looking absolutely destroyed. Dark circles under her eyes so deep they looked like bruises. Hands trembling uncontrollably, like she'd been through complete hell and back. When I asked about her weekends, she'd just mumble, studying at the library, and immediately disappear into her room for hours. But I knew the library closed at 5 p.m. on weekends. I'd called to check. Her grades went from solid B's to absolutely perfect A's practically overnight. Sounds great, right? Except she looked completely miserable about every single test score. I started finding energy drink cans everywhere, stuffed under her bed, crammed in her backpack, like some desperate hiding system. My daughter, who used to drink nothing but water, was now chugging caffeine like her life depended on it. She'd lost significant weight over just 6 weeks. Her favorite oversized sweater hung loose on her shrinking shoulders. She barely touched dinner anymore, just pushed food around her plate while obsessively staring at her phone screen. Speaking of her phone, she started flinching violently every single time it buzzed. Would check it immediately with this panicked expression, then her face would drain of all color. Her hands would start shaking as she typed desperate responses. Her sleep schedule completely collapsed. I'd hear her pacing her room at 2 a.m., sometimes all night long. When I'd knock and ask if she was okay, she'd quickly jump into bed and pretend to be asleep. One Thursday night around midnight, I heard her crying through our shared wall. Real gut-wrenching sobs that made my chest physically ache. "I can't keep doing this anymore," she whispered desperately into the phone. "Please, I'm so tired. I haven't slept properly in weeks. My hands won't stop shaking." A long pause. Then her voice got smaller, more terrified. "I know exactly what you'll do if I don't show up Saturday. I know what happens to my family if I try to quit. I'll be there at 7 a.m. sharp." My blood ran completely cold. What did she mean? What happens to her family? She started having panic attacks. I'd find her hyperventilating in the bathroom, clutching her chest, gasping for air. When I'd try to comfort her, she'd just keep repeating, "I can't tell you, they'll hurt us." The next day, I secretly checked her browser history when she was at school. Page after page of searches. Academic dishonesty consequences. College admission fraud penalties. What happens when financial aid is revoked? Can parents go to jail for student aid fraud? Why was my straight A student researching academic fraud like her life depended on it? I found a crumpled note in her jeans pocket when doing laundry. An address across town written in her shaky handwriting. Below it, Saturday, 7 a.m. sharp. Bring calculator. Number 2 pencils. Photo ID. Her backpack started containing strange items. Multiple calculators, stacks of blank Scantron sheets, different colored pens, even fake reading glasses. None of it made sense. That Saturday morning, I followed her across town. She took 2 buses to get to this rundown strip mall on the worst side of our city. Walked into what looked like an abandoned tutoring center with blacked out windows. I parked across the street and waited. Through a crack in the window covering, I could see inside the dimly lit room. My daughter was hunched over a desk, frantically filling out what looked like standardized test sheets. But she wasn't alone. About 8 other teenagers were scattered throughout, all working at separate desks under harsh fluorescent lighting, all looking exactly as exhausted and terrified as my daughter. A middle-aged man in an expensive suit paced between them, checking their work, occasionally barking orders I couldn't hear. But here's what made my stomach drop to the floor. She wasn't being tutored. She wasn't taking her own tests. She was taking someone else's SAT exams, for money, under different names. I watched for 2 hours as she completed test after test, each one labeled with a different name. Rich kids' names, judging by the prep school addresses I glimpsed. When she finally emerged at noon, she looked like she'd aged 10 years. Shoulders slumped, dragging her feet like each step hurt. I confronted her that night. Through exhausted tears, she told me everything. This man had gotten our family's financial aid applications, told her we'd committed fraud by not reporting old medical bills, said he'd report us to federal authorities unless she worked every weekend. She'd been too terrified to tell us, believing she was protecting our family from prison. My straight A student was trapped in an academic fraud ring, taking tests for wealthy kids who couldn't pass. She thought she was saving us. Instead, she was slowly killing herself.